Hey everyone, Bladesofgod here from Hammer Bros Gaming, coming at you with the newest installment in our Gears Tactics Immortal Legion Achievement Guide. Today we're going to be covering the Act 2-4 side missions. It gives us the choice of running 3 separate side missions. We need to run 2 of them. We're going to be running a Scavenger run mission and an Incursion mission. We're going to be going over a new tactic that we're going to use for our future Scavenger runs. And other than that, there's no new enemies to encounter this time around. And nothing out of the ordinary that we haven't seen before. If you're not familiar with what this guide, what this video, or what this achievement is all about, the Immortal Legion Achievement tasks us with completing the entire game on the hardest difficulty without losing a single unit in combat. The upside, or the forgiving part of this achievement, is that you can restart your mission, you can restart your act or your chapter if you do lose a unit and finish a mission by accident. So it's a little bit forgiving that way. Unfortunately, I don't know if that would be enough to get you through the entire game, because the enemies can be very punishing. The AI can be very unforgiving at times. But that's what we're here for, to help us out. We'll go over what we're using for, who we're using for units, and what our tactics are to get through these couple of missions. If you're finding this video to be helpful, if you find this guide series to be helpful, please consider liking the video, subscribing to our channel, Hammer Bros Gaming. Join Hammer Nation and become part of our team. We'd love to have you on board. But that's about enough from me. Let's get right into the video and help you guys out. So first things first, like we always do, we're going to go ahead and check out our mission, and then we're going to look at our soldiers. So you can see that we got 3 options. We've got to play 2 of them. The Spartan Manticore control does give us a legendary item, or an epic item. I can't remember what, the yellow one, the really good one. But we're not going to do that, because I really don't like doing control missions on insane difficulty. So we're going to do the Scavenger run, and we're going to do the Incursion. Now for the Scavenger run, we're going to be using a new tactic that we haven't used yet in this playthrough, and that is the Solo Scout Scavenger run. Now that's a tongue twister. The Solo Scout Scavenger run is basically, we take our scout, who has the ability to cloak and has the sprint ability, and we're going to throw everything we can on her that is going to give her more movement range and more, we're going to change her ability so she has extended cloak. Normally, like the Gnasher has I think it's a barrel that gives her increased movement range. We don't have that yet, but we do have the Ranger Treads, which gives her increased movement range. So you can see right here, I'm checking to make sure I don't have it, but normally under the barrel, there's an option that gives increased movement. But since we don't have it, we're going to leave our weapon set up the way it is. We did change the boots over to the Ranger Tread, and then we're going to make sure that she has her the chest rig, or her upper armor, is going to be one that gives her the Blitz ability, because Blitz gives you the ability to gain an extra action point on the following turn if you don't take a shot the previous turn. So we're going to want that, and I believe the current one I have gives 40% chance to get an extra action point, which is good. It means we can move further. You could see I just used a respec token to get her all the way down to extended cloak, which is very nice. That's going to give us the ability to have our cloak extend through 2 turns, as long as we don't attack or interact with a case. And here we go. We're going to jump right into the mission. We've got to collect 3 cases. The optional objective was to deploy into the mission without any snipers, so we already completed our optional objective. And when I came into this map, I realized that I don't think I'd ever seen this setup for a Scavenger run, so you can see I'm just kind of trying to figure out what the optimal path would be to grab as many cases as possible. And it's kind of interesting that in all my playthroughs, I don't think I've ever seen, or at least I don't recall ever seeing, this map layout. So here we go. We're going to use our first set of moves to move as far up as possible. There are no enemies at this point. The first round of enemies drop in on the first enemy turn from Reavers. So we're going to get as close up to these items as we can and put as much distance between us and the Nemesis blast zone as possible. So you can see we have, on our first flight of enemies, we have 3 Wretches and 2 Rifle Drones. And those Wretches actually kind of get down pretty far. Not far enough to block me from getting my case, but far enough. So we're going to run up here, we're going to grab this first case, and you can see Blitz activated. I got that extra action point, so I had 4 to start with. And you can see I was going to use my cloak ability, wanted to see how far up I could get with movement. I couldn't make it all the way to the next case, so instead I cloaked, and because of free cloak I get my extra action point back, and now I'm invisible. So the enemies are going to move to my last location, which gives me a little bit more breathing room, which is awesome. And then I have the second flight of enemies come in, and it's 5 rifle drones. Or it might actually be a couple of snipers. But whatever the case is, as you advance past the cases, that's what triggers, or as you advance up the very linear map on these scavenger runs, that's what triggers the additional enemies to come in. And you can see we just got a checkpoint there, which is awesome. And because of hidden cloak, I know that I've got, or extended cloak, I know that I've got another turn of being invisible. So I'm not going to rush it and try to get that case on this turn. We did run past that the case that we were right next to, and the reason we did that is because if we grabbed that case, we would have lost our cloak status, and I didn't want to do that yet. I wanted to move up a little bit more, hoping that these drones would move further south to where I initially started the mission. That's exactly what they do, so it's going to give me more breathing room when I uncloak to grab this case on my next turn. Now you can see the Nemesis bombardment keeps moving up, and if there are enemy units in that blast zone when the Nemesis strikes happen, the enemy units actually die as well. So it's not a big deal, but if you're going for the what's it called? Seriously tactical achievement, and you need to get 10,000 kills, all the kills from those Nemesis strikes actually count in your favor. So not much, but every little bit helps. Alright, so moving on. We grabbed our second case, moved up, we took cover right there. I knew that I was safe from all the enemies behind me. I was far enough up, and any enemies that were going to drop in ahead of me were going to be, they weren't going to be able to attack this round. So that's why I was able to take cover there and know I wasn't going to get hit. So now this is probably the riskiest part of the mission. I've got a whole flight of rifle drones on my right side here. I don't have cloak. I do have sprint available, and I have frag grenade, proximity mine available. But the thing is, I need to be very careful about where I put myself so I'm in good cover from these drones. You can see I'm trying to see if sprint will get me all the way up there. Since it's only level 1, it will not. So I'm going to save that. I've got 1 action point, and I'm just going to take cover behind this planter. Now, it's true that I'm only in technically half cover, but because of that planter, that, I don't know if it's like a broken statue, it looks to me like maybe a big fountain or something. The drones don't have, like these 3 drones would not have a good angle, so even if they decided to shoot at me, odds are they would miss, because the objects that are actually on the map do get in the way of the bullets. So even though I'm not taking full cover, I still have put a larger object between me and the enemies. So here we go, we moved up, there we go, we got our third case, and the extraction zone happily, or luckily, decided to appear right next to that last case, so I was able to make it on my last turn, and that's it, guys. Real quick, real simple, using this method is a lot better than trying to fight our way through. You can see we got an epic sleek stock for our Retro Lancer, so that's going to be going with Sid. 10% crit damage is awesome, we definitely like that. Unfortunately, we don't level up with Marcella here, but that's okay. She's still got some good experience. Let's open up our cases and see what we got for loot. So we got double down on the cog gear, cog armor. Really nothing overly great. The best thing out of this run was definitely the sleek stock with the 10% crit chance. It wasn't crit damage, it was crit chance. 7% crit chance is a little bit better than the patrol damage, so I'm going to go ahead and swap that out for Gabe. And then looking at the leg armor, we've got the commando knee pads, which are kind of not really useful. Double down is pretty useful because it increases the damage you do by 5% for each shot up to 3 times per turn. So if you shoot 3 times, on your 3rd time you're going to have a 15% damage boost. So for instance, if, and you can see I'm putting it on Michaela because she has the ability to use chain shot to get additional shots. So after she takes 3 shots, she's going to have a 15% damage boost, which is really nice because, well, 15% damage is 15% damage. So that's all we got for new gear. You can, like I said, we're not going to be doing Spartan Manticore, the control mission. We're actually going to be doing the Crimson Tide Incursion, and for units, we can only take 2. So we're going to be taking Michaela, and we're going to be taking Gabe. And the reason that we're doing this is because you want to make sure that you're trying to use as many of your main units, your primary units, as you can. And I realized after the fact that I did not show what I was running for gear and skills on these soldiers. are on these units, but in my previous mission, previous video, I should say, I did show all of that. So if you want to jump back, I'll link that video in the description. But by and large, their armor and skill set has not changed since my previous video. So if you've seen that, then you have an idea of what they're running. But let's get right into this actual mission. So our optional objective is to kill 8 or more enemies this turn. And whenever I see that, kill 8 or more enemies in a single turn, I know there's either going to be a lot of wretches or a lot of tickers. And in this case, it was wretches. So we have 5 wretches all group up because, again, the AI is very, very basic. It knows that, or it tries to run all of the wretches directly at our units, and that means that they usually end up bunched up, which is exactly what happens right here. So we can very easily take them out with a frag grenade. You're going to see me do that in just a second. And then as I moved Michaela up, she uncovered the second batch of wretches. So we're going to toss this frag over here with Gabe, take out 5 enemies with 1 frag. That's definitely a very efficient use or effective use of a frag grenade. Then we're going to move Michaela up a little bit. It's a roundabout way. I consider using chain shot to get myself additional AP. And then you can see I'm trying really hard. I keep thinking that I see 3 skulls flash, but I can't get the grenade to land exactly where it needs to be. So instead of messing around with that and then trying to use Michaela's additional, we're actually hoping that she gains an action point because of the mission modifier. I'm going to use one of Gabe's remaining action points to empower her, and then I'm going to move her up. That's something else to mention, is that this mission has a modifier that allows you, every time you kill an enemy, you get a 25% chance of gaining an action point. And in my experience, that means that if you kill 4 enemies, like with this grenade, well, 25, 25, 25, and 25 is 100, so you should get an action point for doing this. And there we go. Mission modifier plus 1 AP. We got an action point. So this leaves us with 1 wretch to take care of. Both both Gabe and Michaela had 1 AP left. So I'm going to overwatch there because I know the wretch cannot jump over that. I don't know if it's flower planter or whatever, but there's some low cover right there that he can jump over. So the AI is not going to have him backtrack and go around. It's very, like I said, very straightforward. That AI wants to get the wretches as close to my units as possible, as quick as it can. So it's going to advance straight down the line, right over that cover towards me, which is why I overwatched where I did. So now as we're advancing, we're going to grab this case, again, because you want to have as many of these cases as we can. There's no such thing as not having good equipment. No, that's not right. There's no downside to having more equipment. That's better. So grab those cases whenever you can. You could see Michaela going to work on these drones with her long shot. Once you get her your sniper class upgraded with the armor and skills, the sniper becomes a very, very OP unit. Between the range and the critical damage and the chain shot abilities, you really can clean up a lot of enemies very quickly. I know that looking at some other guides and kind of watching some other videos and stuff before I started playing the game, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, the sniper's not very effective, it doesn't have high damage output. I don't know what they were talking about. The sniper is probably my most consistently high kill class, if that makes sense. Doesn't necessarily put out the most damage per turn, but it can definitely most consistently put out kills, if that makes sense. Cause kills, create kills, whatever the case is. So, enough rambling on that. Let's get back into it. You can see that the sniper drone just pinned me. I used Gabe's disrupt shot to unpin Michaela so that I could take out that rifle drone using the long shot. Now I'm going to actually run Gabe up here and use his chainsaw to take out the sniper, and that's going to eliminate all of the enemies from the first half of the map before the gate. We do have 1 drone who's down, so yeah, Gabe gets the execution, which is going to give Michaela an additional action point. This means that I can now have 4 action points to move Michaela up, so we're going to move her up as far as we can. And I'll say the same thing I did the last time I did a mission like this, an incursion. You can waste maybe 1 turn waiting for your grenades and your skills to cool down before you open that door. but you don't want to wait too long, because if you wait too long, what's going to happen is that you're going to have Reavers fly over and drop boomers literally right on top of you. And even with a full complement of 4 soldiers, taking out 2 boomers in 1 turn is almost impossible. So make sure you get that door open within a turn or 2 of taking out all the enemies in the first half of the map. I know it's very tempting to waste a couple of turns and then let your skills refresh, but we're not going to do that because we really don't want to risk that boomer coming in. So you can see I just faded out in and out there from one session to another. I had to stop playing, so I came back into the game in another session, hence the transition. And now here we go. We're into the second half of the mission here. We took out, there was 3 tickers lined up, and you can actually see the remains of a grenadier to the right. When I hit that first ticker, it actually caused a chain reaction that took out all 3 tickers and the grenadier, thankfully. So in an earlier video, I was actually stating how tickers out of all the enemies are almost more helpful than they are hurtful if you can keep them at a distance, because if you put them through a choke point or you can bunch them all up, they can really do a lot of damage to their allies, so the other enemy units. You can see in the top left of the screen we have 9 enemies to take care of. We got 1 rifle drone here who's trying to overwatch us. Michaela came up with a big miss right there, which is not great, but it's alright. We're going to move Sid, and I keep saying Sid. We're going to move Gabe up to cover Michaela, and we're going to be using Michaela a lot right now from these positions to take the enemies out as they advance on us. So Gabe is going to be in Overwatch trying to take care of anything that gets too close, and then Michaela is going to go to work using her skills and her long shot trying to take out as many enemies as we can. You can see right there, Gabe doing his thing with the Overwatch, interrupted that drone, is going to leave him out in the middle of nowhere. And we do have a couple of tickers who are going to try to make their way up to us, sneaking around. There's also a sniper drone in the back, but we're not going to worry about him yet because he usually sits back pretty far and doesn't advance until we take out a few more enemies. So what we're doing right here, I've got a good cluster of enemies put together, so we're going to move Gabe up as far as we can with 1 turn, and then I'm going to simply use my frag grenade to try to maximize the damage and take as many units off the board as I can. I was trying to get that wretch in the back, but it wasn't quite working, so instead I'm going to settle for taking out... I can bounce it off that corner, and that's what I was trying to do, was find a way to bounce that grenade off a corner to get a little more distance. Didn't happen, so we're just going to settle for taking out the drone, 1 wretch, and severely damaging another wretch. And then we're going to put Gabe back in cover behind his half cover here. Unfortunately, this means there's no Overwatch protection this time for Michaela, but that's alright. We're going to use our chain shot here, 64% chance. It's a little, that's not very high. Normally I like my shots to be higher than that, and I was actually on the wrong enemy when I fired. So I just wasted my chain shot, and I missed my other shot there. So not a great turn for Michaela, but it's okay. That happens. We still got quite a bit of distance between us and our opponents, so not a big deal. They're going to get some shots or get some Overwatch on us. But again, you can see even with 2 turns of movement, they're still not actually covering us, so I'm still able to move fairly freely. And thankfully this time I'm able to take out both the rifle drone and the wretch using a grenade. So that's something you always want to keep your eyes open for, is when you have enemies that are close together, you always have that chance to get multiple kills. And especially on Insane, anytime that you can take more than 1 unit off the board with a single action, it's very helpful, very beneficial. And that's why, like I said, I like tickers, because it gives you that chance to take out multiple enemies with 1 turn. So right here, you can see we didn't have any shots on any of our opponents. So instead, I'm going to overwatch this right side of kind of that corner near the ammo crate, or the item crate. The reason we're doing that is because all the other enemies are so far back, they're not really going to be able to hit us. That rifle drone was the closest opponent, so I wanted to make sure that he was taken off the board, or at least downed, which he was, and preventing him from getting any shots or overwatching us. So now here we go, kind of cycling through, seeing what we have for chances. I got a 75% hit chance right there, and the reason that I decided to take that shot is because A, even if he misses, I know that the ticker was going to move up, or B, if he didn't die, he was going to move up, and I'd be able to do exactly that. I figured that, I estimated that the distance the ticker would travel would be approximately where that downed drone was, or at least within the down drone would be within the blast radius. So by killing the ticker there, it would destroy the down drone as well. So again, 2 birds, 1 stone. You can see Michaela took that sniper drone off the board with her long shot, just a standard critical hit. Gabe overwatched and managed to hit that ticker as he advanced. And that's something else when it comes to tickers. Tickers advance when you shoot at them. However, during Overwatch, the Overwatch doesn't cause them to advance on you. They're going to move in their normal pattern, and the Overwatch shot won't alter that unless you interrupt them. So, here we go. We're down to 1 enemy remaining. It's 1 drone sitting up top there in that little building. Unfortunately, he's also sitting right next to the last loot crate that I could grab. So there's no way that I can really run up there and get it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of advance. We're going to use our full cover to the best of our advantage. And like I had said in a couple of previous missions or a couple of previous videos, when it gets down to this last enemy, sometimes they just do this stupid little stutter step where they only move a couple of steps at a time and they just hang out in the same area trying to force you to come to them. And if that's what he wants, that's what we're going to do right here. Unfortunately, this doesn't go as smoothly as I'd hoped. This is a missed shot. And what ends up happening is I put Gabe into Overwatch on this drone, but the drone doesn't... the drone gets the better of me in the exchange. I don't die, but Gabe takes quite a bit of damage from a shot because my Overwatch was not as far up as it should have been. And when the drone advances, you're going to see right here, he doesn't actually trigger the Overwatch and manages to get a shot on Gabe. Thankfully, he was in cover, so it was full cover, so I got a 40% damage reduction, which was enough to keep me alive. However, the same can't be said for this drone. 1 saw to the face, takes that last rifle drone off the board, and we are done with this mission. We did leave 1 of our equipment crates behind, or equipment cases behind, but ultimately not that big of a deal. We didn't want to risk trying to rush up to that area and get that case and then potentially lose a unit to the drone. So there we go. That incursion is done with two soldiers. We ended up getting the Epic Hollow Epic Hollow Stock, which gives us the Bloodlust skill for our Retro Lancer, but we're not really going to use that. I will open up the cases that we got, and that is going to be the end of this video, guys. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. You can also check us out on Twitch at Hammer Bros Gaming. I am Blades of God, and until next time, have a great day everyone.